Mikel, did you feel like you'd done more than enough to win that game?
No, because we haven't won it. Huge blow, obviously. There were moments, especially in the first 75 minutes, that we were on our level. We gave every single ball away, and we didn't have the capacity to dominate the game and take the game where we wanted. It's true that in the last 15 minutes we had the chances, and the extra time the chances to win it. And when it goes down to the penalties, then it's a lot of uncertainty, and we lost it.
What problems did Sporting specifically put on you today? Was it similar as well to the first leg? They caused a lot of problems for you tonight.
No, I think it was a very different game.
And how was it a difficult game? What challenges did they force on you tonight?
Oh, especially that we didn't win enough duels when we had them in certain spaces. They are really good at attacking those poaches and second line runs, and we didn't put the ball under pressure well enough to do that. And then every time we regain the ball in really dangerous areas, we give it away, and we get away the ball consistently. And then that created a really open transition game that we didn't want to play.
How much did it upset your game plan, those forced early changes with Tomiyasu coming off?
That happened. It happened with Tommy, it happened with Saliba, and then we are really restricted to do the changes because we only have one window to do them and only one sub left. But we have to accommodate that. I think the team got better and better with the changes, especially the last 50 minutes of the full time, and then we had big chances to finish it off, but we didn't do it.
How do you got so much to play for? How do you reset for the Premier League campaign now? How do you pick yourselves up again?
Nothing. Just look at ourselves, what we've done and what we weren't good enough to go through. Congratulate Sporting, and after that now we have 11 games, and the first one is Palace, which is a final, and every word that we spend right now it has to be towards Palace, be better than today to beat the game.
Mikel, thank you. You did enough to win tonight.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we did enough in some periods of the game, but most of the game we weren't on the level we should be. So I think part of the game we did well, but throughout the whole game we didn't play our best football. So yeah, it was a tight game in the end, so could have gone both ways.
You give any credit to the opponents? Obviously, they've come in. Not many teams have beat you at the Emirates today, but it's an audacious lob. It's an inspired goalkeeping performance as well. How hard did they make it for you?
Yeah, they're a good team. We knew that. We knew their qualities, and we were prepared. So, but I think it was more about us today. We didn't play the way we normally do, and we didn't, put in the energy maybe we normally do. So that's disappointing. But now we have to look forward and just get ready for Sunday. That's all now.
How do you ensure that this doesn't derail your title efforts? Because it's a huge disappointment. How do you pick yourselves up again?
No, we have to remember it's been a great season. We've done amazing things this year, and of course it's a big blow to go out of this competition. It was a big goal for us, but we have to look forward now. We have to look for Sunday, just come back strong and make sure we finish well in the league. That's the only thing we can do now.
Gabriel Martinelli having a great season. Obviously, to step up and take a penalty is always the chance that you might miss. What do the team need to do to get around him and make sure that he feels like he's not forgiven, but he can move on from that?
No, we win and lose together. Doesn't matter. Everyone, when we're winning, everyone is happy. You know, when we lose, we have to pick up the spirit and keep going. You know, we win and lose together. That's all. So, yeah, nothing more.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you.
Channels. Sadly, it won't be. Arsenal, because I guess, as Martin says, Farah, the Sporting goalkeeper, 35-year-old Adan, was man of the match really across both extra time and then clearly in the shootout.
Yeah, he was phenomenal today. I think over the two legs as well. So, yeah, 120 minutes tonight, but over the two legs, I thought he was fantastic and certainly made a difference in this Sporting team. And I think it gives your team confidence when you know you've got a goalkeeper like that. This is a big save.
Yeah.
You know, the timing of it, just in extra time, big hand he gets on it and it comes off the post. And you earn your luck sometimes as a goalkeeper. And I think he did that, you know, over the two legs. But that hand, that save, he kept himself big. He stayed as big as he could for as long as he could. And I think it was a great hand and a really good save. This is a phenomenal save. Oh. The hand, the power that he generates behind, the hand, to just palm it away from any sort of danger, it's a fantastic save. And it keeps him in the game. That, you know, when another day goes in the back of the net. And then the match-winning penalty save, not convincing for Martinelli, but a really good save and sees his team through.
I think he's clever there because he leaves kind of less of the goal to the left, doesn't he? And then he just sucks him in to go in that side. But yeah, he makes two good saves. I thought actually the reflex save, I thought it was quite a long way over. And obviously just gambled that it was going to go to the right-hand side. But no, he played a major part in them winning here tonight.
He did. Credit to their coach. They obviously came with a game plan to stifle Arsenal, which at periods they did. They played on the break into those channels and created their own moments of danger. So credit to Amorim, really.
Yeah, I thought the tactics were spot on. I thought they caused this Arsenal team problems. I think problems that we haven't seen Arsenal have to deal with this season. I think they did it really well. We spoke before the game, the positioning of Edwards, and could he cause Zinchenko problems along with Gabriel? And I felt like he did that at times, and that was going to be the way they were going to get in. They ended up scoring a phenomenal goal just inside the half. But yeah, we did expect the problems to come down that left-hand side, the right-hand side, so Arsenal's left. And I think they did for the majority of the game.
Yeah. At times, it looked like they were a team that could get to the edge of your box, maybe didn't have the cutting edge. So they obviously recognised that and thought, well, we'll just shoot from 50 yards. That's the way to solve that problem.
Well, that's right. And they had 14 shots and only 2 on target. But one of them was enough, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, this is... I said, actually, earlier that I wondered if this was some sort of practiced behaviour because have they looked at the goalkeeper? Because he does take a high line, as most goalkeepers do these days, because he's onto it in a flash, and he doesn't even look up. He knows where the keeper is, but the execution is on quite. Probably wanted to get him on a bit earlier, but he couldn't because his hands were tied. All the substitutes were being
each other than those that drop in.
Yeah, but he'll give players time. Vieira came in tonight, and you saw, didn't you, that it step up in class when Ødegaard came on the pitch. There's very definitely a difference there. Yeah. But we have to give Vieira an opportunity and time and more game time on the field, which will come for him. And that's a shame that you've gone out of the competition. But when you look overall how much it's impacting on the group, all of these games, the first game there was, a number of changes going into that game. I think 6 changes going into that game. It was a case of trying to manage the situation of giving the right minutes for each player, and the players then managing their energy levels. And I think there was a little bit of that again tonight. They went for it in the end. Don't worry.
Yeah.
They just couldn't pull it off.
Yeah, they did. They looked the dominant side in extra time. They obviously wanted to get the job done if they could. They came on strong, but not quite enough. Yeah,
I think they did in extra time, but I do think we have to give credit to Sporting because I actually think their game plan, their tactics were difficult and would have been difficult for any team to come up against. I think they really disjointed the Arsenal back line. Zinchenko at times, his positioning, then forced errors within Gabriel's positioning. We saw Holding give away a half chance, with his positioning going in with the striker. So I think the way in which they set up was difficult to defend against, and I think it caused Arsenal problems.
They went 22 games earlier in the season unbeaten. This is a team that, expects to win, and there's a huge belief. It's different. I know they've slipped a little bit in their own league, but nonetheless, coming into this game, I think undefeated in seven matches. So they're in decent form. And you could see it in their eyes. The manager before the game was saying, look, let's get this on. Let's have it. They were ready to create an upset tonight, and they've done that.
Is there anything in the psychology of what's gone on this week? We saw how dominant Manchester City produced against Leipzig on Tuesday. They'll be watching on. They'll be well aware of what's gone on here tonight. Is there anything in any of that as far as the Premier League is concerned?
I think Man City, being the team they are, they're focusing on themselves. Haaland was an incredible message, wasn't it, a couple of nights ago, that they're in top form. Arsenal would have wanted to respond to that, of course, The manager put out a strong enough team to win this game, but it affects the rhythm. And Arsenal are about passing, about rhythm, interchange, and it upsets their balance. Man City were able to pick up pretty well their full team, weren't they, the other evening to go after they didn't play in Europe the week before. It's been a nicer timetable for them. And I think that's affected Arsenal. And Thursday night football, whatever people say, having gone through the experience myself, it's late in the week and it affects you come the weekend.
Really?
I sincerely believe that. People say, OK, it's the same number of hours, but there's something about that game later in the week. I think next season, when Arsenal get into the Champions League, I think they'll be a lot happier having those extra couple of days to look through to the weekend. A play on a Saturday, the whole thing becomes a little bit disjointed.
I think that the City's squad depth, you look at if they was to rotate their team, is a lot stronger than Arsenal's changes. So we spoke about a second-string Arsenal team that we've pretty much seen in Europe is weaker than a Manchester City second-string team. So they're able to rotate and keep their players probably a little bit more fresher. We've seen Arsenal in the Premier League pretty much not change that starting 11. And as the season goes on and the number of games, it becomes more difficult.
We've had 10 years, though, of Man City qualifying for the Champions League. And year on year, the extra revenue that brings, you bring a top player in every year. Every two players, Arsenal not being able to do that. There's been a wholesale changes to the squad. And this is like rebuilding, reaching out now, trying to hang on to Man City. So, it was not going to be an upward curve all the way. And maybe that we shouldn't be that surprised that they've fallen foul of what they were trying to do tonight, which is to get through to the next round.
Yeah, well, Mikel Arteta's talked about phases, hasn't he, that he's trying to build the club towards, and maybe they're ahead of schedule, and maybe this is an example of where it's just caught up with them a little bit. If you look at the games that have come, what they have got now is a clear run at those Premier League games. They do get training ground time, recovery time, planning time that they've perhaps, as you say, lacked for in the last few weeks.
And in the Premier League, they're 15 points better off from this time last season. So there's been a massive improvement in their performance.
Rather cheaply for an Arsenal team at times tonight, didn't they?
It's interesting listening to what he's saying there about energy levels, about pressing, about being able to, you know, put better pressure on them in order to stop them playing those raking passes that they were playing. They were often playing balls, weren't they, into channels. I think they exploited Arsenal's system tonight, which has been a huge success with Zinchenko going into midfield, and they seem to look at that and punch balls into that channel the whole time. And I think he wasn't happy with people pressing that. You know, we've got to work harder. And I do feel it's fatigue, though.
Do you?
You know, I know there's a lobby of people that just have no sympathy for players and the number of games that they have to play. And we're wondering about the World Cup and all the effects and everything else on that. The mental effect as well. This team wants desperately to win the Premier League. And I think it's difficult to sort of refocus and retarget another competition and then change the team. It's kind of like 5 changes here, 5 there. And
Don't need to do that anymore.
I think it proved a little bit too much tonight. I think in the extra time period, they were definitely the best team, but it took far too long for Arsenal to crack this nut. And in the end, they went out.
Well, normally, you heard Arteta talk about the duels. They lost a lot of duels, and they did. And we're so used to seeing Arsenal with Zinchenko going into that middle and dominating the middle area. On paper, it looked as if Sporting were playing with 2 midfielders, but at times looked like they were playing with more in there. And I just think it's the way they set up. They were more compact, closer to second balls, closer to counter-pressing. So when the transition were happening, they were so compact. You know, when they had that back five really narrow, they kept the pitch really narrow, but and in terms of the length, you know, it was short. So the gaps between the units were really tight and difficult for Arsenal to play in and get any sort of rhythm and momentum in their possession. And
I think Arsenal usually, don't they, start so well with such energy, such fire,
the tone,
and it didn't really take off, and the team then were